Today we're going to work on surface area and lateral area of prisms and cylinders. And we put prisms and cylinders together because they have two bases. So there's two shapes, but the formulas work for both of them. And I'm going to draw the picture. So on the first one, the formula for lateral area is perimeter times height. So perimeter is the distance around the base. And in a prism, we talked about the bases can be the same shape and the same size and parallel to each other. So we could make the right and left the base if we would like. So those are the bases. So the perimeter would be the distance around that, and then the height is always the distance between the two bases. Okay? Same thing with a cylinder. Here are your two bases. Okay? And then height is always the distance between the two bases. Now, when we do our notes in class, I'm going to have you find perimeter, base, and height first because you need those measurements to find lateral area and total surface area. But it's not going to be that way in your homework or the quiz. You're just going to find these measurements. All right, so let's take a look at number one. On number one, it is a rectangular prism, and we have two bases, and I've shaded them in yellow. Bases could be the top and the bottom, the front and the back, or the right and left. Either one, it doesn't matter. So the first thing we need to find is the perimeter. Perimeter is the distance around the base. So if I look at this length here, this is 12. Remember, perimeter, you have to add up all the sides. This length here is 3. This length here is 12. And this length here is 3. So no, you're not using the 6 for the perimeter of the base. So 12 plus 3 is 15. Plus 15 would give us 30 yards. The area of the base, well, it's a rectangle, so it's going to be 12 times 3, which is 36 yards. The height is the distance between the two bases. The two bases are 6 yards apart. Now that we know all the measurements, now we can find the lateral area and total surface area. So the lateral area is the perimeter, which is 30, times the height, which is 6. So we get 180 yards squared. It's the only one, it's the lateral area and total surface area, the only area, so it's the only one where it's going to be the yards squared. Okay, now notice in the formula, this says perimeter times height. This says perimeter times height. We already found this measurement, so we're going to take this measurement and plug it in and then just add the two bases because we have the two things shaded, because total surface area is the lateral area plus the two bases. Okay, so my lateral area would be 180 plus I have two bases I shaded, and each base has an area of 36 yards. By doing this work ahead of time, I know these numbers to plug into my formula, and then it makes the calculations easier. Okay, so I'm going to add the 180 plus the 72, which gives me 252 yards squared. All right, number 2 is a cube. That's easy. Here are your bases. Perimeter. We got two choices. You can do 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4 because I'm adding up all the sides, or 4 times 4. Either way, it's going to give you 16 inches. The area of the base, well, it's a square, so it's 4 squared, which also happens to be inches squared. Okay, the height is the distance between the two bases, which is 4. The lateral area is the perimeter, which is 16, times the height, which is 4, which would be 64 inches squared. Total surface area is the lateral area, plus the prism has two bases, and each base has an area of 16. So we have 64 plus 32, which would give us 96 inches squared. Okay, this one is also a prism because it has the two bases. The bases are the triangles, because remember, bases have to be the exact same shape and they have to be parallel to each other. So let's look at the perimeter. So here's one side of the triangle. That's 7. Now, I got these problems from a website that had everything labeled on it, so I don't love the way they've done it. But this 6.1 is what these measurements are. And I know that's weird. We're just going to go with it, okay? So 6.1 plus 6.1. Okay, so in your calculator, 7 plus 6.1 plus 6.1 gives us 19.2 millimeters. The area of the base, it's a triangle, so it's going to be 1/2. The base of the triangle is 7. The height of the triangle is 5. Okay, so put that in your calculator. 7 times 5 is 35. Divided by 2, you're going to get 17.5 millimeters squared. Now this height right here is the height of the prism, and the height of the prism is the distance between the two bases, and the distance between the two bases is 13 millimeters. Lateral area is your perimeter, 19.2 times your height of 13. So 19.2 times 13 in your whoa, I did that totally wrong. 19.2 times 13 in your calculator is going to give you 249.6 millimeters squared. Total surface area is the lateral area, 249.6 plus we have two bases, and each base has an area of 17.5. So we have 249.6 plus 35 to give us a grand total of 284.6. Remember that, this didn't write clearly. Remember that total surface area has to be larger than lateral area, because lateral area does not include the bases. Okay, we got two more. Hang with me. We've got another prism here. It's a prism because it has two bases. So the perimeter, okay, well, one side here is 5, plus another side here is 5. Okay, how can we find this third side? Well, you've got a couple of options. You can do Pythagorean theorem, or it is a right triangle. 2 of the 3 sides are the same. That means it has to be an isosceles right triangle, which would be a 45, 45, 90. So this third side would have to be 5 square root 2. Now, for these problems, I'm going to let you use a calculator. So in your calculator, if you were to find the square root of 2, you'd get it's 1.4 something. And then you take that times 5, you would get, we're doing nearest hundred, so 7.07. Oops, sorry about that. So when we add that together, 5 plus 5 is 10, plus this would give us 17.07. The area of the base. Well, okay, think about it. I'm redrawing it, but it's a right triangle, right? The base and the height form the right angle. So it would be 1/2 times 5 times 5, or it would just be 25 divided by 2, which is 12.5. Sorry, forgot my labels. Centimeters, centimeters. Height is the distance between the two bases. If you shade your bases, it'll help with the height, figure out the height. So the height is 10 centimeters. Now that you have all the other measurements, getting the lateral area and total surface area is easy. The lateral area is the perimeter, 17.07, times the height, which is 10. Don't need a calculator for that. 170.7 centimeters squared. Total surface area is the lateral area, plus prisms have two bases. Each one of these bases were 12.5. So we have 170.7 plus 25. So we're going to get 195.7 centimeters squared. One last problem. Circles. Okay, not circles, cylinders. Two things we remember. For these, we're going to do them in terms of pi. Okay, that's the first thing. And the second thing, over here it asks us to find perimeter. Circles don't have perimeter, but the distance around a circle is the circumference. So when it says it's a cylinder and they're talking about perimeter, they're really talking about circumference. Okay, so circumference of a circle is 2 times pi times the radius, or pi times diameter. Well, since the diameter is drawn in, that 4 is the diameter. If I only had the radius drawn in, that number would be the radius. You have to look and see what's drawn in. So since it's the diameter, it would just be 4 pi. The area of the base is pi times the radius squared. Well, if the diameter is 4, the radius is 2, so it also is 4 pi. This is inches squared, this is inches. The height is the distance between the two bases, which would be 6 inches. Lateral area is perimeter times height, which would be 24 pi inches squared. Total surface area is the lateral area, 24 pi, plus a cylinder has 2 circle bases. Each base has an area of 8 pi. So I have 24 pi plus 8 pi for a grand total of 32 pi inches squared. And I'm just realizing that I am tired because I kept telling you the only thing that were squared were lateral area and surface area. That is false. Capital B is the area of the base. That's got to be squared, which apparently I did on a couple, but not all. Okay, there you go. You're done.